Picture this. You're sitting across from a woman at a coffee shop. You're talking. She's listening. And at some point, she crosses her legs. Maybe she crosses them toward you. Maybe she switches them a few minutes later. And suddenly, you start wondering, does that mean she's attracted to me? It's one of those tiny body language moments people love to analyze. Because crossing your legs looks intentional. It looks like a signal. And online, you'll find plenty of people claiming that when a woman crosses her legs around a man, it means she's flirting, attracted, nervous, or subconsciously trying to draw his attention. But here's the problem. Human body language isn't a dictionary. There isn't a universal translation where one movement automatically equals one emotion. And crossing your legs is a perfect example. Sometimes it means absolutely nothing. Sometimes it tells you something about comfort, confidence, habit, or the situation. And in certain contexts, it can become part of a much bigger pattern of attraction. So what is actually happening when a woman crosses her legs around a man? Let's break it down. First, the simplest explanation. She may just be comfortable. Think about how often you change your sitting position without even thinking about it. You cross one leg, then the other. You uncross them. You lean back. You move your foot. You shift in your chair. Your body is constantly making tiny adjustments. Most of them aren't conscious messages. And research on nonverbal communication strongly supports the idea that individual body language cues are often ambiguous. A posture can have different meanings depending on the context and the other behaviors happening at the same time. So if a woman crosses her legs while talking to you, the safest conclusion isn't, she's attracted to me. It's simply, she crossed her legs. That might sound boring, but it becomes interesting when you look at the entire interaction. Because body language works more like a sentence than a single word. One gesture doesn't tell you much. Several behaviors happening together can tell you much more. For example, imagine she crosses her legs. That's one signal. But now add something else. She's facing her torso toward you. She's maintaining comfortable eye contact. She's smiling naturally. She keeps asking you questions. She doesn't seem eager to end the conversation. And when the conversation moves somewhere else, she keeps finding ways to continue it. Now you have a pattern. The crossed legs aren't necessarily the important part. The important part is that several behaviors are pointing in the same general direction. Researchers studying nonverbal communication have found that behaviors such as eye contact, proximity, smiling, and forward body orientation can communicate intimacy, attraction, trust, or engagement. But even those signals aren't foolproof. Context matters. And that's especially important when we're talking about women. Because women don't all use body language the same way. Culture matters. Personality matters. Age matters. The environment matters. And even something as simple as what she's wearing can influence how she sits. For example, crossing the legs may simply feel more comfortable or natural in certain clothes. It can also be a way of maintaining personal space. And this brings us to another reason women may cross their legs around men. Social awareness. Women are often more conscious of how their bodies are positioned in public spaces. Not because every movement is sexual, but because people are aware of being observed. Think about sitting in a crowded restaurant. A woman's sitting position can change depending on whether she's at home, sitting with close friends, sitting at work, or sitting across from someone she doesn't know well. The same person can use completely different postures in different environments. That's why interpreting body language without context can be so misleading. Now, there's another interesting possibility. Crossing the legs can sometimes make a posture look more composed. You're taking up less space. Your movements become smaller. Your body appears more contained. And depending on the person and situation, that can communicate calmness, formality, or self-control. But here's where online body language advice often gets things wrong. You'll sometimes hear that crossed legs are a closed posture. Therefore, she'll supposedly be uninterested. Again, it's not that simple. Research has shown that posture can influence perceptions of people, but the effects depend on what the rest of the body is doing. In one classic study, researchers examined smiling and open versus closed body positions. They found that smiling had a major effect on how attractive the woman in the study was perceived to be. When smiling was high, the difference between open and closed body position became much less important. That's a useful lesson. One gesture can be overridden by another. A person can have their legs crossed while still being highly engaged in a conversation. And someone can sit with completely open legs while wanting nothing to do with you. So if you're trying to figure out whether a woman is interested, don't stare at her legs. Watch the interaction. Is she engaged? Is she contributing? Does she ask questions? Does she make eye contact? Does she smile? Does she move closer? Does she seem relaxed? Does she voluntarily keep the conversation going? Those behaviors tell you much more than whether one knee is sitting over the other. And there's an even more interesting question. Why do people sometimes associate crossed legs with attraction in the first place? Part of the answer may come from the fact that attraction changes the way we pay attention. When you're interested in someone, you start noticing tiny behaviors that you would normally ignore. A person scratches their face. You notice it. They adjust their hair. You notice it. They cross their legs. You notice it. They look away. You notice it. Suddenly, every movement feels meaningful. But the same movement might have happened dozens of times before you ever noticed. Your attention changed, not necessarily their behavior. That's a powerful psychological trap. When you like someone, your brain becomes extremely good at finding evidence that they might like you back. And body language gives your brain plenty of material. A smile becomes a sign. Eye contact becomes a sign. Hair touching becomes a sign. Crossed legs become a sign. And before you know it, you're building an entire story out of 5 seconds of behavior. This is why researchers studying nonverbal behavior generally caution against treating individual gestures as having one fixed meaning. The meaning comes from the combination of behaviors and the situation. There's another factor people rarely consider: comfort. If you're sitting for 20 minutes, your body eventually wants to move. Crossing your legs changes the pressure on your hips and back. You might do it simply because your previous position became uncomfortable. And if the chair is awkward, the floor is cold, or there's limited space, your posture can change even more. None of that has anything to do with attraction. Now let's talk about the situation where the crossed legs actually might become interesting. Imagine you're on a date. She's sitting across from you. Her legs are crossed. But more importantly, her upper body is turned toward you. She's smiling. She's making sustained eye contact. She occasionally leans forward. She's asking personal questions. She remembers things you told her earlier. She laughs easily. And when the conversation could naturally end, she keeps it going. In that situation, the crossed legs aren't proof that she's attracted to you. But they also don't need to be. The overall behavior is what matters. Researchers have found that expansive, open body posture can be associated with romantic desirability. In a series of studies involving speed dating and online dating profiles, people displaying more expansive postures were more likely to be selected as potential romantic partners. That research is particularly interesting because it shows that posture can influence first impressions. But notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't say, cross your legs and people will think you're attracted to them. It says that broader patterns of posture can affect how people perceive dominance, openness, and desirability. That's a very different claim. And it brings us to one of the biggest myths about women's body language: the idea that every movement is secretly designed to attract men. Real human behavior is much less dramatic. Women cross their legs because it's comfortable. They cross their legs because they're sitting in a certain chair. They cross their legs because they always sit that way. They cross their legs because they're thinking. They cross their legs because they're cold. They cross their legs because they're nervous. They cross their legs because they're relaxed. And yes, sometimes a person's posture can be influenced by attraction or self-consciousness. But you can't determine that from the legs alone. There's also a fascinating difference between being observed and being interested. Someone can become more conscious of their appearance around another person without actually wanting a romantic relationship with them. Maybe she knows you're looking. Maybe she's simply more aware of her posture. Maybe she wants to appear confident. Maybe she's nervous. Maybe she's trying to sit comfortably. That doesn't automatically equal attraction. This is especially relevant in American social settings, where people regularly interact with strangers in workplaces, college campuses, bars, restaurants, networking events, and social gatherings. A friendly smile can simply be friendliness. Eye contact can simply mean someone is listening. Crossed legs can simply mean crossed legs. The mistake is turning normal social behavior into a secret code. So if you're wondering what it means when a woman crosses her legs around you, here's the most honest answer. By itself, almost nothing. But if you want to understand what she may be communicating, look at the cluster of behaviors surrounding it. Does she orient her body toward you? Does she maintain comfortable eye contact? Does she smile? Does she voluntarily stay close? Does she initiate conversation? Does she seem genuinely engaged? And most importantly, Does she behave differently with you than she does with everyone else? That last question is often more useful than any body language chart. Because you're not trying to decode a universal gesture. You're trying to understand a person. And people are complicated. A crossed leg isn't a confession. It's not a secret invitation. And it certainly isn't proof that someone wants you. It's simply one tiny piece of information. The real signal is the pattern. And sometimes, the most confident thing you can do isn't trying to decode every movement. It's actually having a conversation. Because no amount of body language analysis can replace clear communication. So the next time a woman crosses her legs around you, don't immediately assume you've discovered a secret attraction signal. Look at the whole interaction. Look at the context. Look at the consistency. And most importantly, remember that body language can suggest possibilities. It can't read someone's mind. Because sometimes a crossed leg means attraction. Sometimes it means comfort. And sometimes, it just means she wanted to cross her legs. That's the psychology behind the gesture. And that's why body language is far more interesting than the internet's simple, if she does this, she likes you rules.